She was on Basketball Wives. She was on The Real World.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's on a show. What is it called? This is Pat. I forget. Like, what is it
She's on
called?
the Miss
Pat?
Pat show. She was on Truth
Miss
Be
Pat.
Told, a BT or
Gotcha.
Carl Weber's Family Business. She's booked and busy.
She's booked and busy. So she was on Real World Homecoming, which is that was her first reality show,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all back in the house 20 years later, whatever. There is a clip that's going viral. 3 clips that are going viral that I have to air, and I need y'all to sound off on this. Here she is, the only Black woman back in this house with 6 strangers, and a conversation happens over the N-word. And it is a train wreck. It's traumatizing. It's hilarious, but y'all just need to hear this, and we're going to sound off on it. Listen to this.
You don't understand friendship. You don't understand what I'm saying to you, that the word should not come out your white ass mouth. They called him that. So what?
Yo, I just think this is, I mean, there isn't much to, Reese, your thoughts.
First of all, okay. I lived for this. I was like, Tammy Roman deserves hazard pay because my blood pressure went up just dealing with the conversation. I mean, people acting stupid, and
Grown people.
Grown people. And there was a Black
in their
guy who
40s
was
and
sitting
50s.
up there on
David.
mute, chuckling and just letting her out there trying to handle it on her own. But she's absolutely right. I mean, like y'all be getting too loose with feeling comfortable with it. And like she said, you can say the N-word, and then they had the Latina woman turn around. And after she literally just told the white dude, like, don't say it. And then she turns around and says it, and she's like, girl, like the look on her face is like, I can't believe that what's not clicking. So I love that. But just on another note, I do want to say, somebody was like, oh, it's beneath her to do reality TV now that she's acting. And I said, well, why can't she do both? I mean, Black women do not have to be pigeonholed into one thing. They don't have to be shamed about being in any particular boat. You can be a reality TV star and you can be an actress on Apple TV acting alongside Octavia Spencer. So I'm here for Tammy Roman showing her range and in that moment representing and saying what needed to be said to both of these weirdos. And then she said, don't be calling them Black colored people. That's why I don't like when people be, when they say the Blacks.
Right.
They be heavy on that K.
Blacks.
Well, you can tell what they are inferring based upon. I was like, you don't all just have to be saying the N-word itself. Mm-hmm. Like you can say, Blacks that you're saying or something else, and just dripping in discrimination and racism. Yeah. Sometimes you even saying my name will joy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Her and her people, right? Like there's still ways that you can say, I don't know how. See, this is why I can't do reality show, because when people just doing mess, I'll be ready to fight. Like, exactly. You can't fight people on TV like that.
But I want to say this too. This is an important point. Again, I know it's a silly pop culture thing, but I want you all to think about this. These were people, white people, 1 Latin girl and 2 Black folks, who were living in a house 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago at this point. And there were racial issues coming up on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for Real World New York when they did that Homecoming and Kevin Powell. And of course, we all love her, Heather B. This is early 90s, 2022. And these MFers are making the same exact mistakes in their 40s and 50s. So if that's happening to Black folks on reality television in the 1990s, and the same group of people in 2022, just think about the everyday for us. That's why I get so annoyed when folks say that generation will die off.
Mm-hmm.
That mentality will die off. These folks ain't grown in 25 years. In the other Real World New York Homecoming, this girl named Becky is arguing with the phenomenal writer Kevin Powell the same shit. Mm-hmm. And this is, I know it's a silly pop culture reference, but that is how many times have I been in that conversation with somebody? How many times?
Is that we like
damn.
not classifying them as like mistakes, because it's not a mistake. This is who you are.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
A mistake would be saying your name correctly, or, someone didn't tell you their pronouns and you're like, oh, she, and she's like, oh no, my pronouns is, they, and like, oh, my bad. Okay. So right. Like, and you just go like, that's a mistake. Right. Like,
exactly.
oh, my bad.
Exactly.
I called you by the wrong name.
And we all make mistakes.
Whatever, right. We all make mistakes. You correct, which means that the mistake is that you recognize that it was a problem, that there was a harm, and you course correct. Like you change,
right.
Like someone being the same person and addressing the same issue. That is who you are. Right.
Six people being the same. 25. You know what's funny though? Here's a great example of this. And I'm always aware of this kind of stuff. So when I first moved to New York, I met somebody who was of Asian descent. This must have been like when I was 20 years ago. I used the term Oriental. I didn't know any better. And they said, don't call me Oriental. I'm not from the Orient. I'm Korean. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was wrong. Thank you for letting me know. I'm in my early 20s. Don't call me Orient. Cool, got it. Now imagine if I would have said, well, why are you being offended? Well, that's what they said. That's what they said. I listened because I want to make sure I do the right thing. I don't want to be a dickhead. I'm not Asian. I don't know what it's like to experience that.
Right.
One thing, I make sure to never say the Jews. I would never, I don't say the Jew. I say the Jewish community. And imagine if somebody who's Jewish said, yo, don't say the Jews.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Oh, why are you getting upset? It's a plural. Come on. I'm going to shut the F up because I'm not of that community. And I want to be as respectful as possible, just being a human being. That's what I want to do. So the fact that they all try, I guess, I don't know what the Latin girl said, but they all try to defend their foolishness to the lone Black woman there is just, come on, y'all. If someone says, yo, that's not cool, we all make mistakes, like Eljoy said, yo, okay, I got it. Even me as a gay person, I've been in LGBT circles where I've said the wrong thing. Yo, don't say that. I'm not going to say what I said was the wrong thing. Yo, don't say that. I've said, okay, cool. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Cool. I didn't know. Even in the circle. So that's just what angers me, is that if a group is telling you this, especially if you aren't of that group, this is sociology 101. Now is the time to be human and say, okay, cool, got you. Another example. I wasn't saying it. Oh no, it was Karen Hunter. Last week, somebody used the term fair-skinned on her show. And she said, you know what? Don't say fair-skinned. Don't say that. I don't like fair-skinned or bright-skinned. Just don't like that. And I forgot who the person was, but they said, oh, okay, cool, got you. That's what you do. This is very simple. This is not being oversensitive or politically correct or cancel culture. I just think it's simple.
And that's the thing, is that it's not hard. And this is what, I don't know if you've ever heard, like the rant I have, I think Reese did when we were in South Carolina. I was like, this is why we can't, rise to a higher level, because people still just want to stay basic. Right. So
exactly.
Like, how are we human beings supposed to be, on a higher plane than the animals and like dominion over the stuff? And you can't course correct something as easy as calling someone by their correct name or like not using a particular term. But we supposed to be able to like populate Mars. Like, we dealing with this basic ass shit, excuse me, because you don't have the capacity to use the full range of your human brain, and be able to control yourself and your language and your behavior. To be able to someone to say, no, I don't go by he, I go by she. It's like, well, you look like this. It's like, why are you coming? Like, why are you being combative? Why this ain't an argument?
Right. Absolutely.
Like, this is who I am. Like, and just like, oh, okay. And let's move on. Like, why do you have to stay in ignorance? Why are you fighting to stay in ignorance?
That's why I call people belligerently ignorant. It's like, it's one thing to be ignorant. Oh, I don't know, my bad. But it's another thing to be belligerent about it. Like now you're going to stand in that and you're going to double down on being ignorant, which makes you an asshole in addition to being ignorant, in addition to being belligerent. Get it the fuck together. That's why I don't argue with people about racism or anything. I'm going to tell you. And then that's the end of it. You're either going to correct yourself or we're not going to even continue the conversation because you're not going to waste my mental and emotional labor in arguing with something that ain't nothing to even argue about. You wrong, either correct it or shut the hell up. Those are your two options.
And that's a good point too. Correct it or shut the hell up. So if somebody tells you, yo, I didn't like that, even if you think they're wrong in your head, just shut the F up. Especially if you aren't of that group. So if the person who, if I felt like, why can't I call you Oriental? I wasn't thinking that in my head, but if I, for some stupid reason, as a 21-year-old thought that in my head, I should have I would have shut the hell up and said, well, why are they thinking that? But I'm not going to correct them on what I was saying wrong about that. It's this common human decency that people don't get. And the other thing is I thought was interesting is that, and actually, we had a white caller call in and say this. She said the mistake that a lot of white folks make when they're called out with racism, then the white person, this is what a white caller said, decides to censor themselves around the conversation. I said, oh, that's censor. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, censor. So what he was doing, he said, well, they called me the N-word. Don't censor yourself. Don't censor. You are censoring yourself. That's why you're effing up. Now she got to cuss you out.
Yeah.
You censor yourself. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make. You make it about you. It ain't about you. Now you're the victim.
And can I just add to, because sometimes, you know what, you might think like this sensitive ass bitch, they sitting up there, got their panties up in a bunch. Oh, they want me to do that. But you know what? Take that to the altar, take it to your spouse when you recounting your day, talk about how this MF or that tried to sit up there and tell you that. But to that person, just shut the hell up. Because I'll do that sometimes. Even on social media, sometimes people say stuff to me. I'll be like, this motherfucker, I ain't even say none of that. And part of me wants to argue with them and go back and forth. But you know what I just do? I just be like, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna let them have that. Because even if I feel like they're wrong, it's not my place to necessarily minimize their experience or even get into a back and forth with it. Because like I said, it's not an argument. That's how they feel. I'm going to engage or not. And sometimes I just shut my own self up. I tell myself, shut the hell up. And then I go talk shit about them behind their back to somebody else who wants to hear what I have to say.
Exactly. Okay? But especially if it isn't your lane. That's the other thing. Is this your lane? Like another example, back in the day, I would use the term Spanish to refer to somebody who was Puerto Rican. I'm not a New Yorker. And they would say, don't call me Spanish. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Dominican. Spanish is the language that we speak. Spain is the colonizer. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I'm a dumbass. I didn't know. Now, imagine if I would have said, but you are Spanish. You are. This is common human decency.
Why are you arguing?
That's all that we have.
Why?
Right. Yeah.
But
so that's so.
But
go ahead, Joy.
About like censoring yourself, I find that I have this whole story, and we'll have to talk about this later, Clay, in terms of growing up in church and a church girl or whatever. My perception and my view of LGBTQ, like it's like totally, you know, I can identify with some folks who are staunch, like whatever, because that's what I was brought up on, right? And so it took some time for me to sort of dismantle and sort of think about those things a bit, you know, think differently. And it requires practice. It requires, because you've been ingrained with that, it requires practice for you to stop and say, is this about me? No. Does it take anything away from me? Does it harm me in any way to do that? No. So then just sit in it. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to get called out. It's uncomfortable for somebody to correct you. It's uncomfortable for the whatever, but it doesn't kill you. Right?
Like, you know who did that?
It doesn't erase you.
It's a great point. You know who did that? The rapper Common. I interviewed him because I saw an interview he said years ago that he stopped using faggot. And I said, why did you stop using that word? And he said, because I had some fans who approached me who said, yo, Common, we love your music so much. Why do you got to use faggot all the time? And he just said, oh, I didn't even know and I don't want to hurt y'all. Like, y'all love me, y'all love my music. He said, so I stopped using it. That may not be for everybody, because some rappers still use bitch and hoe and the whole bit. But I really thought, oh, that's really cool that isn't the person he wanted to be. You know, Common, so love and, you know, bright and shining and all that kind of stuff. But that's a great example of that. So I definitely hear you. And let me tell you something, even as a gay person, I've had to undo the doctrines that I had in my head about other gay people. I had to undo that as well. And Larry Favors always says this. Larry Favors says that many of us are, as Black people, we are recovering white supremacists, because we have to undo the self-hate that we have been taught. We are recovering white supremacists. Now, some folks ain't recovered.
Yeah,
like cotton to Congress.
And also sexist, as Reese can point out, because just think about some of the phrase, like I have to catch myself in saying fast tail girl, right? Right. Right? Like I have to catch myself on like those kind of things, particularly on younger, you know, being with young, just like, why are you doing that? What? And she's like, you know, look, let me gather myself, right? Like, and sort of change the language, and remembering how, you know, it made you feel with some like woman in the church talking about, you need to cover up your knees because of the men looking at. I was like, the men looking up there, and I was like, my cousin don't look at my knees, and like, right. So like changing that,